Hey guys, I got a little story I want to tell you about. This goes back to when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, just a little kid. Probably a heck of a lot cuter than what this is now. But I remember every night, I grew up with my grandparents. My mom had to work, my dad had to work, they worked together. It's just one of those kind of deals. And my grandmom, she would, every night, because I went to Sunnyside Public School, and every night she would read me a story. And I loved to be read to. Absolutely. It was the most amazing thing. And at that time, I was sleeping in the same bed as my grandmom. My granddad would sleep in the room adjacent to us. And I must have been probably 5 to maximum 10 over the course of this going on. And every night she would read to me, same old books. I get to choose one. There's maybe 10, maybe 15 books there. So as you can tell, I would have just memorized those poor books by osmosis. And it was amazing just to listen to my grandmom talk and everything. And there was when I was really tiny, now that I'm thinking about it, when we used to watch TV together, I used to watch all our soap operas or her Columbo and all that fun stuff. And we had a lazy boy, and I was tiny enough to sit right beside her. So as you can see, my grandmom was a small woman, but the most amazing, beautiful, soft-hearted woman you'd ever meet. And part of the story is my dad decided to, because I was behind the times, decided to teach me how to read. I don't know what he got into him, but he decided I need to teach my son how to read. He needs to be a man. He has to be able to read. So he grabbed all those books. Unbeknownst to him, I already had them all memorized. And brings me to his home. He said, this weekend, we're going to teach you how to read. So, cracks open a book, and he starts and he tries to teach me how to read. So right after the first word, I knew what was on the page. I knew how the story went. So I was able to just look at him and tell him verbatim what was on the page. And he's like, "You're not reading." I'm like, "But I know the words. I know how this goes." And so he flips the page, or he picks a random page, and he says, "Start reading." After the first 2 words, I know the sentence, and boom, I'm starting to read the page. I'm starting to read what's going on in the book. And he's looking around, he doesn't have much furniture, doesn't have any other magazines or other books and stuff. And so he's frustrated, cracks open another book, the same thing happens again. Picks a random page, gives me the first 2 words, because I don't know what the words look like, but I know what's on the page. And once again, it happens again, where I'm able to literally tell him the words on the page and how it goes. So within about 10-15 minutes of this, okay, we're getting you a tutor. Your mom's getting a tutor. So that week was I was probably in grade 6. So the story is up to had to be grade 6, grade 7. Yeah, had to be grade 6, grade 7. We were about to move anyways, and Mom got me a tutor during that course of time. And that's how I learned to read. But my grandmom, amazing woman, miss her to death. My granddad, Percy, Betty and Percy Bourne, an amazing couple. Got married when they were in their 20s. Granddad passed away in his 90s. Grandmom passed away a year to the day of his passing. And just couldn't imagine a better couple. Now I'm 34. I don't really have a chance to get married for 50 plus years. I wish I could. My my other grandparents, Carl and Maida Wayne, they met during the war, and they used to laugh because Maida met Carl, and wherever she was deployed, Carl was already there. So the ongoing joke is that she chased him all across Europe. Oh, jeez. Trying not to cry. But I grew up with them. So the weekdays, the weekends, the summers, like I spent my weekdays with my grandmom, Betty. The weekends with my granddad and sorry, I'm starting to trip over my words, getting all emotional because I missed them. That's how I grew up. And then during the summertime, I was with Maida and Carl Wayne. So I was on their farm, and I'd be working with my granddad, Carl. He'd be working on his tractor, or going through the fields, or doing something. And he's always a prankster. Like if he took you out to the mall, you walked through that perfume aisle, you would not coming out of that place. Well, let's just say you'd be smelling like every single kind of perfume there was. When you're 10 years old, like, you would think it's cool and stuff because it doesn't really bother you, but woo-wee! Maida was not impressed. Because on the way home, she would have to be dealing with all those beautiful smells, overwhelming your senses. I always went to church, and there was times where I remember being out with Carl, and he would have me on the back of his tractor or in the trailer, and he would gear it so that I would have to hold on, or I would be on my butt. Tractors don't move all that fast, but that first little couple seconds when the trailer is coming out from underneath you, it's kind of scary. I guess that's where my playful nature of surprising people comes into play. That's where I learned that from. My granddad, Percy, he was always tinkering, always doing something, and he taught me a lot of things just by me watching him. We're gonna hit that. Didn't have to slow down today, only doing 70 though. And I used to just watch, because he would always tinker with vehicles, he would tinker with electric motors, fix the vacuums, fix this, fix that. And I think that's a lot where I would watch him and I'd be able to pull things apart in my mind and then be able to put it back together. So that's an old skill that's done me really well over the years. Even things I don't even know how to do or properly do, or there's a proper procedure to do, I'm able to pull it apart before I even start. And I'm very thankful for all those experiences I have with my grandparents. Like my mom had to work, and it was only up into my teenage years that I actually stayed around the house, because then I could stay around the house. So, kind of miss my granddad at that point. And the day he passed away, like I hadn't seen him for a while. I was living on my own at this point. So I must have been like 15, 16, had my own apartment, living on my own. And I was talking to my landlord, who was the sleaziest person you'd ever meet. Like, I don't ever describe anybody like that, but yeah. My mom actually met him through a dating website, and that's a whole nother story. Anyways, I was actually talking to him at that moment. And I said to myself, my granddad just passed away. I stopped the conversation right there. And I said his name obviously, but I'm not going to repeat that here. I said, my granddad just passed away. I don't know how I know this. And I didn't even want to call because I was scared. So a couple days go by, I got a call from my uncle, and he indeed passed away. Nobody told me that he was in the hospital. Nobody told me that he was sick. And that's always kind of killed me. I was a teenager, so I was off. Like, I was living on my own, dealing with my own stuff. Like, so I was kind of caught up into all that nonsense. I was one of his pallbearers, and couldn't afford a suit, so I was there in dress pants and a black leather jacket with a white golf shirt. That's what I could afford at the time. All Walmart stuff. And yeah. Remember his tie being all messed up. He was in the coffin. And I fixed his tie or whatever. And yeah. So, didn't mean for this to go down that page. I just miss him a lot. But I still remember tinkering around with him. He had his stamp collection. He had his collector cars. Always working on something. And he always kept his cars. Like, he had his favorite cars. He had the old Woodies and stuff. And he had his... he didn't have any Mustangs or muscle cars. That was his son. Keith. That was his son, Keith. My Uncle Keith. He was really into Mustangs and stuff. Nothing like big power or anything, but muscle car, like a pony car. So he had like 2 or 3 of them. Granddad only had 2 trucks, which is why I always liked cars. I love trucks now. Wish I got into them earlier. Or later, depends on how you look at it. But yeah. So my granddad had a lot of impact on my life. I miss them to pieces. Miss my grandparents on either side to pieces. They were a good, wholesome bunch of people. I know I started this little story off by how I learned to read. I think about them often. I was lucky. I grew up with 2 granddads, my dads. I think I grew up with 2 grandmoms, my moms. Because mom had to work, she had 2 or 3 jobs. My dad was off worked for GM. And I remember as a kid, I would teach him things, and he would just get frustrated at that. Like, even to this day, I'm still teaching him stuff if we ever do get together. I haven't seen him in a while. But I remember as a kid, I explained to him how an alternator and starter and see that little tool there, that little solenoid. If you can't get your starter to engage, you get a piece of metal, and I used a knife because I always have a pocket knife on me, and I engaged it, and I was able to turn the motor over because that was what was wrong with his boat. Still is what's wrong with his boat, by the way. Still is what's wrong with his boat. And he's replaced numerous things. I guess he's even told me, like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that was what you were talking about. It's like, okay. But yeah, love my dad, love my mom. They worked hard. You know, these days where it used to be back in the day where one person could have an income and it would support an entire family. Not so much these days. We have to work harder for half the pay. And that's just the way it goes. But my granddad, my grandmom, Betty and Percy, my granddad Carl made a way. Like, Betty and Percy born, Carl made a way. Amazing, amazing couple. And I learned a lot from them. Like, about dogs, about cars, going to church, all that fun stuff. And I truly do miss them. Think about them every day. So yeah. The reason why I brought up how long they've been together and how I got to talking about them is because they were together. Like, I remember going to a 50th anniversary of Carl and Made a Way, and they had these hologram 50th little sticker thingies to celebrate that. Like, almost like not stuff that gets blown up and you have that's like confetti? No, something like that. I can't remember what the term is. I want to say graffiti, but it's not. there's that whole concussion deal going on yet. But the point of it is I remember them being together and celebrating. I was only like just a teenager at the time with my cousins and whatnot. We're all celebrating, and they were together a good 60 plus years. Same with Betty and Percy Bourne, and that is something amazing. Like, just something else. A friend of mine was, he's been married twice. He's well into his retirement years. And he's been married 37 years. I'm thinking to myself, I'm 34. And he was talking about his wife. And sometimes they get at it. You've been together with somebody for that long. It's kind of one of those things you would expect. But they love each other dearly. They can always come back together. And I told him the other day when he couldn't figure out this computer problem. She was at him about it and whatnot. I said to him, "You guys have been married together 37 years. Yeah, you can't figure this thing out. You don't want to spend the money to get somebody in there who's professional to look at it. I get that. Those computer things can be as expensive as fixing a car. But look at it this way: you guys have been together 37 years. There's a lot of love there. There's a lot of time there. There's a lot there. You have children together. Like, don't be focusing all like what you can't fix. Look what you've accomplished. Like, listen to me. This is like a week before the other conversation. What you have in your life, the love of a woman, your family that you've made. Like, I look at you and I see somebody who has everything. Yeah, you don't have a big house, you don't have a bunch of fancy cars, but you remind me, in a way, of my grandparents. You remind me of what they've gone through, the ups and the downs. Like, he told me how he first met his wife. She was living with her, I guess, her boyfriend at the time, and he was abusive. And Carl had heard about this, and he said, "I'm not having that." So he literally went to her house, where he was staying with his future wife, but he didn't really know that then. And he got her out of there. He literally, like, pushed him up against the wall, was about to get rowdy with him. I'm sure he did, but he didn't tell that part of the story. And they packed everything up, and he got her out of there. He said, "You can stay with me for now." She eventually got her own apartment and stuff. They stayed in contact, and then they started seeing each other. And that's the story how that started. So I look at all this, and I'm so envious of being able to spend that much time with somebody, to be able to love somebody that long, to have a family like that, to build a family like that. That's just amazing to me. I'm sitting here at 34, thinking about my grandparents, thinking about those that I've had in my life, and how amazing their stories are. So yeah, that's where I'm thinking today. And I kind of wonder to myself, when will my story start? I kind of think, when will my story start? It's kind of funny. We started talking about stories, how I memorized every single one, and now we're talking about when my story is going to start. Too cool. So, anyways, battery's been dying the phone. I've talked about it for about 20 minutes here, and some emotional stuff. I miss my grandparents, both Betty and Percy Bourne, both Percy and Betty Bourne, And Carla made a way. Miss you dearly. And to anybody who is out there, think about everyone, like your grandparents. Think about all those people that had an impact on you, who they are, what they've got accomplished, what they've done, and your accomplishments, what you've done. We all got a story to tell. We all got love to give. And for me, I'm waiting for mine to start. I'm waiting for my story to start. So I hope you're all having a great day. I'm stuck in traffic. It is what it is. Peace out, guys.